feel like I'm drawing the attention to myself, and I don't want the attention on myself. Like, I don't need the spotlight. I try to be part of the team, be effective, and help drive things. Um, but it's also a matter of when you sit back and you look at the accomplishments you've had that you've written off or underplayed or downplayed for so long. That's like, well, I actually did do these things. I have done this is what I bring to the table. And you start to it's just easy to get lost and allow yourself to not just undervalue things that you've done, but it has an effect on your person as well, to where I think it starts to erode your confidence in other things, to where you start to believe that this is who you are. Leading ain't easy, the show that cuts through the noise and gets real about leadership. I'm Ryan Calkins, Marine Corps veteran and founder of Reframe and Rise, and I'm here with my good friend and fellow leader, Erny Epley, founder of Bus Pro Network, as we unpack the highs, lows, and hard-earned lessons of what it actually takes to lead with character in today's world. It's not another highlight reel or fluffy leadership pep talk. We're talking about the stuff most people don't: the doubt, the pressure, the people problems, the pivots, and the personal growth that it demands. Because the truth is, leadership looks good on paper, but in real life, leading ain't easy. Welcome back to Leading Ain't Easy. Today we're going to talk about something that is kind of easy to say, but it's hard to live sometimes, and that's knowing your worth. It's something that Ernie and I were talking about, where we feel like everybody struggles with it, whether you're new to leadership or you've been doing it for 20 years. And it's not about money and titles. It's more, knowing what you bring to the table and refusing to undersell yourself. We've talked about imposter syndrome before. We've talked about the cost of being the good guy, and this one kind of ties the two together, because the way that we look at it is, if you don't know your worth, essentially you let other people define that for you.
Exactly. And I'm thinking of a certain situation where I had to determine my value, not only as an employee, but someone who was stuck in this situation where, man, I don't think this is going to get better. And what do I do? Do I continue to pound my efforts into this agency, we'll call it, and just keep on hitting this glass ceiling, or do I need to make a change? And ultimately, for me in that situation, it was a change. So I'll just kind of go into the story. I was at
So you felt
a
like the
district.
effort that you were giving wasn't appreciated in terms of knowing your worth? Like, you felt that you were more valuable than you perceived them viewing you as?
Yes and no. So it was the effort that I was putting in was, one, not appreciated, and two, not valued at the upper level to make any kind of change and effect change in where we were. So going into it, I'll probably try and keep this as brief and high level as possible. But I was at an agency where there was a lack of leadership for quite some time, and the entire uh, agency, not just my department, was struggling. There was a lot of turnover at the top. I think it was a school district. At the time, the district had like 7 superintendents in a span of 3 years, and there was quite a bit of turnover at the head of the department where I was taking over, which is transportation. So when that happens, it's no shocker that the morale is going to be in the toilet, not only in the department, but district wide, trying to establish relationships that are imperative to the work we do in transportation with other departments, other school sites. Once the morale is at that all-time low, because of the high turnover in leadership, it takes a while, a long while. I've seen this in across the board in the industry, and also in the 3 departments that I've come in as manager is for. So knowing that and going into it, like when I was being sort of recruited, for lack of a better term, for the spot by the incoming superintendent, was, hey, we understand this is going to be a long haul, that, but we have your back, just we've read your resume, we see what you're, what you could bring to the table, and we think you're the guy. Fast forward 3 months, man, it might have been 2 months. I mean, it was quick. Um, it became very apparent that, oh man, like I'm not going to get the support I need from the top to enact this change, because what was happening, without going into detail, though, we would come across an issue. I would say, hey, this is how we need to rectify this issue. And then it just blew up, and to the point where folks were marching on the district office, chanting my name, hey, oh, Ernie's got to go, which I wish I had video of that still. I would love to, as a proud mark, to put that up in some sort of, it was funny to
I
me.
would love to see that too.
I mean, it wasn't funny at the time. Looking back, it's funny. And so, there's this whole ordeal that happens. Myself, at that time, I was a manager. I had a director above me. So the manager and director, we got, called into superintendent's office and assistant superintendent's office. And the superintendent was part of the meeting for like 2 minutes. I was like, you guys figure this out, and walks out. So right away, I'm like, dude, that's a big middle finger. Like, you're not even taking this serious. You're like, you guys can handle this. Like, it's not like a low level issue. Like, they're outside those windows. You can hear them chanting this stuff. And like, I need more support than, you guys got this, right? So anyway, I knew right away. I was like, oh boy, if this doesn't turn around, I don't know how much longer this is going to be, doable. So in the meeting, and I screw it. The associate soup, like the one who we were like, hey, how do we fix this? These are the issues, blah, blah, blah. The director and myself, we give everything out on the table. Like, this is what's happening. All we're trying to do is hold folks accountable for no call, no shows. That was the real issue. And he was like, huh. And it caused all of this. Like, yeah. Like they haven't had anyone here to not, I hate the word enforce, but that is kind of what you do. You enforce policy. You say, as a manager, hey, if you don't call out, or at least alert us you're not going to be here, that's an issue. What job in any industry is that okay, just to not show up and expect not even to hear like a talk or conversation from the manager? Like, it just seems crazy looking back at it. But he's like, okay, so they're all upset over that. Yes. Have you tried buying them donuts? I'm like, oh my God, dude, are you serious? And I don't know if I've told this story on this podcast before.
You
maybe.
have. I didn't realize that's where the donuts tied to.
Yeah. Oh my. I was like, dude, the maple donuts ain't gonna fix this. And the dude next to me is like a director who has all kinds of he had like a PhD, all kinds of education. He's like, I have about $250,000 in education. Donuts aren't going to fix this, man. And I'm telling you right now, I don't know if there's a Fred Pryor or any other kind of podcast you could have us listen to that's going to fix this. This requires real effort and real time decisions that are going to be tough decisions that you're going to have to stick by us with. And anyway, so it kind of devolved into like, all right, well, you guys figure it out. I got a 12 o'clock to get to, and I was just dumbfounded. The director who was next to me at this time is like, yeah, we're not getting any support at the top in this. He goes, we're just going to have to figure out a way to proceed in this environment and see if we can't find success. And my answer was, okay, so this just, I could expect every Friday and Monday to have 20% of my staff just not show up and nothing happen. And I, got parents, schools, everyone yelling at me. Their field trip ain't getting to where they need to go on time. Kids aren't getting picked up. Like, we're just what do I tell the parents? Hey, I tried buying donuts for these people to get them to come to work and it's not working. Like, what do we do? In that situation, we're stuck in the terrible middle of this. Right. So anyway, once he said that, and I just knew right then, like, man, I have been busting my ass trying to get our service up to an acceptable level, just not even above and beyond. Just, can we pick up kids on time? Can we take them to their destination? Right. Mm-hmm. We weren't even meeting that benchmark. So I can't do this. I can't do this on my own, because anytime I try to introduce policies or introduce things to say, to hold us, I say us because we're all one, those we run department, hold us accountable to a higher level of service, they start marching on me and they start chanting fun little slogans. And my I'm supposed to buy them something, right? Like this isn't going to work for me. And so right away, I was like, you know what, I'm done. I can't do this. So for the first time in my life, I just was like, you know what, I'm done today, and today is my last day. Which I think kind of all boils down to, I recognize that, hey, I'm what I'm bringing to the table isn't valued in a way by upper management, by senior management, I should say. And I just refuse to feel like I'm taking a half a step forward and 10 steps back. It was, I don't think I'm exaggerating to say, like, all this effort and all this, 12, 13, 14 hours a day putting into trying to improve our service to the students is just not worth it. I know I can go to another district, or not even necessarily district, but another place that would value what I bring to the table much more. So I'm walking, and that was it. And so in that moment, I had to really sort of both know my worth and then roll the dice on my worth moving forward, right? Because at that point, my worth was only self-analytical. Like I was the one assigning it to them. Now I need to sell myself to another agency or district or whatever to if I'm going to move forward. So yeah, knowing it and then kind of rolling the dice on the future move.
So you weren't necessarily struggling with your own self-worth. It was the perception of how others found value and worthiness in you that was
Uh,
the challenge.
a bit yes and a bit no. I knew that I could. What I brought to the table was valuable enough to um, not necessarily turn things around, but get us on a better path. And maybe with the help of a great staff in place and a great support system on the upper and the lower end and all around, I knew I had enough value to at least get it started. The part with me came where I had to really discover my worth and really know it was the confidence to then say, I'm leaving this job today and I don't have anything lined up. I'm quitting on Friday without a job to go to on Monday. That's really scary. Um, and then then trying to discover that to then sell myself to another agency to convince them that hey, I'm your guy. I'm the one to do that. So in that moment, there was a little bit of self-doubt, a lot of self-doubt, if I'm being honest, in that moment, because with each day or each week and each month that the applications weren't responded to, or there were that period of time, that transitional period. There was a time where I'm like, man, I might have screwed up by just walking away.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that and kind of living that at this moment when I took a leap of faith and pursued, career coaching in the avenue that I'm going after almost 15 years in operations. Um, I don't know. My struggle with self-worth, well, not even self-worth. I guess it's undervaluing myself. Started when I got out of the Marine Corps. I mean, I was 21. I had spent the majority of the time as a marksmanship instructor. Came out and I didn't know what transferable skills were. There weren't a ton of resources available at the time, or if they were, they just weren't readily available like they are today for transitioning veterans. And I was just looking at it as, oh, I taught people how to shoot. Like, who's going to care about that in the outside world? But I was failing to see that, I was facilitating and I was coaching and I was doing logistics and coordinating, a ton of things that were transferable. And I wasn't looking at the value and worth that I was bringing. I was looking at focusing on the negative piece of it. And it's been one of those things that I have struggled with my entire career, is that sense of self-value. And I'm also, I don't know, on the Chinese zodiac, I'm a dog, so I'm a very loyal person by nature. But it gets me in trouble a lot too, because I got to be the only idiot in the world that takes less money at every job I go to, because I have this sense of needing to prove myself at every job that I get. And I have trouble coming in and saying, "Oh, this is the what I've learned, this is how I know," it's like I need to come in, prove my worth, work my way up, and it's one of those things where I constantly undervalue myself or, I'll fill out a resume and submit it. I'm like, "Well, I'm not qualified for any of this," and it's like, "Well, you are qualified. You're getting an interview because you're qualified," and it's all of these I think you and I talked about it where it's like once you get your foot in the door, you don't need to prove your value and worth anymore. You've shown the worth. Then it's a matter of, having the relationship building and that, and it's just I don't know. It's something I'm constantly working on. It's like I know what I bring to the table, and I sometimes it's a mental block where I struggle to convince it's like I have to convince myself of my own value and earn it from other people. I don't know. It's just
Well, I'll tell you one thing. You're not the only idiot on this call. I'm I'm right there with you in terms of of having that mindset of accepting or starting at a wage value of less um or what have you, right? In that certain area, because when every time I've taken a new position, with the exception of this last time, I came in with that same thing of saying, same mindset, like, let me prove it to you. Uh, let me show you that I could earn this, right? Or that I can, do this job at the rate at a higher rate. So, man, it's such a precarious balance because I've had folks that are colleagues of mine who in this very industry say, "No, no, no, no. You ask for the step that is congruent with the amount of years you've had in management, and that's where they should start you. If that's industry standard, blah blah blah." And it was I've never I never had the confidence or self-worth to do that. To say, "Hey, I have 4 years in management. I should start on step 4." Right? I always attacked it from a different angle, but there's something I do want to say about that is in it's paid off for me in the sense that I have invested in the future to gain stock right now in my worth and what I bring to this company or what I bring to this agency, in so much as I've said in the past, "Hey, give me a year to show you what I can do, or give me 2 years," right? Just whatever period of time that is. Let me show you what I can do, and then we can talk about where I fit on that salary schedule, or where I fit on what step I feel like should you should be able to invest in me. I've always taken that approach, and it's paid off. So in a sense, like, you're not an idiot for taking less right now. It's more of, let me show you what I can do, and kind of prove it to you. And so in that sense, not only are you betting on yourself, you are setting a goal and a real expectation for yourself. Sorry, you're going to step in with something.
Well, no, I was just gonna say yes, I mean, you are, right? With the intent in every job that I've taken less, I've, been promoted and ended up further along, but it's that initial step back, and now it takes time not just to get back to where you were, but to continue to build when you see, a ton of people hopping jobs every 2 to 3 years, getting a rate increase and continuing to grow where I'm taking, the stairs and then moving down a little bit and then moving back up, and I don't know. It's just one of those things where I don't the approach has been flawed because had I not had that, mental block that just kept pulling me down, who knows where I'd be today, or whatever. Maybe I'd be farther along than I am, which isn't a bad place to be by any
Sure,
means. But
but go ahead. Sorry.
no,
To be
I was just gonna going back to the loyalty piece. I mean, you know me. I'm all about relationship building, and small talk is hard for me because it's like I want genuine conversation and team building and engagement with people, and I try to make every job that I have a real I hate to say like family environment, but I genuinely care about the people that I work with, and that loyalty starts to become a fault because then I feel guilty about, asking for a raise or a promotion, or if there's outside considerations, it's like, well, do I want to leave all of these people that I care about when there's a potentially better opportunity? And then I start to psych myself out. And I'm like, well, is the grass really greener? Am I going to get more pay and be miserable? And it's just another situation where it's like I'm considering everybody else over myself. And not to say that, I want people to be selfish and always look out for themselves, but at the end of the day, nobody is going to care about you like you do. You have to think about what's best for you, because a company is not going to reciprocate the same level of loyalty that you are for them. And it took me a long time to realize that.
Yeah. What I wanted to interject earlier is that, to be clear, I'm not saying that the other approach is wrong. I'm just saying that I've taken the different approach, and it's both paid off, and it's also, I've kind of had mixed bag, um, fallout from it. Meaning, like, there's times where I'm like, man, I left money on the table there. Shit, I mean, we're here now. Let's just move on. You can't dwell in the past, but so I do respect those folks who come into an interview, nail the interview, and that say, hey, based on what I have, respectfully, I believe I'm worth this much. And I've had folks that I've interviewed for positions that are within my department. I respect the hell out of that. Doesn't mean that I believe one way is wrong, or right or wrong. So, sort of pivoting just a bit here. I wanted to talk about a time where I did advocate for myself, right? And it came after a very painful lesson. I, when I was moving from bus driver to the next step in my career, I had initially went to my boss at the time when I was a driver and said, hey, I want to become a delegate behind the wheel instructor, because that's sort of the next step. There's a few different next steps from bus driver to, on up the chain. For me at that time, I thought mine was becoming a delegate instructor, and then a delegate behind the wheel instructor, and then maybe a classroom instructor, and then maybe either lateraling over to dispatch, or then over to a lead instructor or a lead dispatcher, all that good stuff. I was told at the time, and which kind of deservedly so, I was kind of a knucklehead when I was first got at the company as a bus driver. Not kind of, I totally was. I got told at the time, like, no, get comfortable in that bus driver seat. You're never going to be anything beyond that. Which, yeah, it's kind of an a-hole move. It really got me going, right? So one thing led to another. I find myself in an interview for a school bus coordinator position for the California Highway Patrol, and I took the written test, and there was 24 of us that took the written test for two positions, and oh no, sorry, four positions, excuse me, and I scored number two, and I was like, heck yeah, man, this is awesome. I'm definitely gonna get an interview, which I did. The first interview I got was down south in Westminster, California, in Orange County, and it was the first time I'd ever had a real formal interview. I think I had like maybe one other one, but it was more like, hey, can you do the job? Yeah, okay, you got it. There's no really pressure there. They needed bodies. Like, do you have a pulse? Yep, okay, come over here, we'll pay you. Um, so in the middle of that interview, I am just fumbling all over the place. I completely shit the bed, like just terrible, man. To the point that the CHP captain who was there in the interview he puts his pen down and he takes down his glasses. He's like, son, I need you to sell yourself to me right now, because I'll be honest, I don't think you were worth a plug nickel if I would have put you. He's like some Southern guy. I was like, oh my God, just dress me down worse. And I don't know that was a direct quote from the time, but it certainly felt that way. All I heard was, you need to learn how to sell yourself if you're going to move forward. Appreciate the opportunity. Have a good day. Or appreciate you coming down here for the interview. Have a good day. And just sent me on my way. And of course, I went out bawling, literally crying tears, like, oh my God, they're all right. I'm never going to be nothing but a driver. So in that moment, I had my girlfriend at the time was like, shut up, we're going to go down to the beach. You're going to be fine. There's other people. There's four positions, right? I'm like, yeah. And so that's the first one you got an interview for. You'll probably get another one. So in the moment between that interview and the second one when I got, which was up in Northern California at Redwood City, I really, really bore down on my interview skills and how to speak and how to sell myself. So in in the theme of knowing your worth, it took a failure to break me down to the very foundational level of who I was as a person. Felt like as a person, as somebody who wants to take the next step in my career. I had to start from zero after that interview because that's where I got knocked down to.
Mhm.
And to the point where now if ever I'm interviewing for a job, like I've been told in the, I don't know, 6 or 8 positions that I've taken since that failure, a lot of the feedback is like, "Hey, you interview very well, you're very well spoken, you know, you sell yourself very well, you're very knowledgeable in these areas, and not only knowledgeable in the areas, you apply them, you know, to how this position is gonna work." And so taking a weakness and turning it into a strength was, it started with knowing that, hey, in that moment where a failure, I had a girlfriend or somebody at the time saying,
Mhm.
"Hey, you're better than this, and we know you're better than this. You just need to practice on selling it." So, if there's ever a time that you know that I could look back and say, "Hey, I advocated for myself, and it felt much different, and it actually helped me progress along," I think we all could point to maybe things that in our own lives where we've advocated for ourselves. Maybe we don't even realize that our advocation for ourselves at the moment was based in knowing who we are and knowing our worth and knowing what we bring to the table.
So how do you balance that advocating for yourself with that sense of being team oriented?
I think if you start with the team, knowing that my life's going to be easier if I have a team behind me, right? Certainly in leadership, this is the motivation, right? Because at in my current role, it's a big department. It's a huge, it's like there is no way I could do everything on my own. Like I've tried before and and almost had a heart attack, right? Not at this place, but earlier in my career, I thought I could do everything. I could do everything until like part starts pounding out of my chest and like, is this the big one? Is this it? You know, God, are you real? um, so it took that to sort of come back to the realization and lead with the team mentality and leading with, I can't do this on my own. I have to have help. And so in order to have help, I'm going to put the team first, get that and support as needed there, then my own life becomes easier once the team is on board and once we have a cohesive goal. Did that answer your question? I'm sorry. I kind of rabbit trail a little bit and I'm not
Yeah, I
sure if
think
I answered
so.
the question. I don't think so.
No, it was just more, looking at your sense of self-worth and not, uh, putting the team and falling back into the team and just being kind of a cog in the wheel. And that's not to say, stepping out with the loudspeaker, like, "Everybody hear me, listen to me." But it's just, knowing your worth and not just defaulting. And, as you were talking, I was thinking about what you opened with at the beginning of the show, where I was kind of struggling to see your loss of worth in the description that you were sharing. And I don't know, as I was thinking about it, it feels like I think what you were trying to get across is the more progressive and trying to make change and not receiving the opportunity and support and everything else to do it, it was kind of eroding confidence in a way to where you weren't feeling valuable and you needed a change of scenery in order to show your worth and contribute. And it
Exactly.
finally clicked for me. I'm a little slow today,
It's all
but
good.
I've been there many times, and I think I understand and relate to it. And there's also kind of those hidden costs of settling, where it just weighs on you emotionally and it holds you back professionally and mentally. It's just exhausting and draining to give everything that you have and just feel like you're constantly hitting a roadblock, or, it's just like, well, we can't do it. It's like, well, okay, well, what can we do? I don't know, figure it out. And it's like, well, okay.
Yeah, that's what
Like,
we got you
help me
for.
here,
That's why you're there.
But I guess from that, when you're in it and you're working and you're putting your head down and you're grinding and you're, going out of your way for everybody to try and not just make your situation better, but you wanna improve the quality of work and life for everybody around you, you know? And when you're in it, you don't necessarily realize it, but when you take a step back, it's like, why is it that it takes us, to the brink of burnout or being burned out to realize, "Hey, I am underpaid. I am underappreciated." Like, why has it taken me so long to see this?
Yeah, I hear that, man. And one thing when you were talking about that that really struck to mind is what man, I got to be careful how I say this because I don't want to appear like I'm throwing any one person under the bus. But I've had folks that have been part of my department who come to me with that, and it was just not factual. They're overvaluing themselves, right? Like in a way that it's not just an opinion. This isn't just Ernie sharing this opinion and saying, "You know
Mhm.
what? You're way overvaluing yourself right now." There are receipts, which I'm not going to go into what those receipts are, but there's objective evidence and objective facts that no, you're not. Uh, so how do we not fall into that trap as individuals, right? How do we self assess to say like this isn't this isn't a situation where I'm overvaluing myself. This is a situation where I'm doing something wrong, or I need to readjust what my approach to this.
So are you talking about arrogance or entitlement when we're looking
Bit of
at
both.
somebody overvaluing?
Bit of both. Yeah, yeah. And that the hardest thing about arrogance is I found this in my own life in moments where it's bitten me in the ass. It's like I didn't know in that moment, right in the heat of the moment, that I was being arrogant. It wasn't until I was retroactively looking at it that I'm like, oh boy, that's a bad look, right? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is like how do we tell our listeners and how or even ourselves, how do we identify that?
Well, I think the arrogance piece is typically harder to recognize sometimes than the entitlement because,
Mm.
when you're saying, "Oh, well, I've been here 3 years, Ernie's been here 1, like, that should be my job," and it's like, "Well, why?" Are you really looking at, am I doing everything that Ernie does, or is it simply I've been here longer, that job should be mine? I feel like, you can get lost in entitlement, obviously, but I feel like if you're truly looking at yourself, sometimes entitlement is easier to recognize than arrogance, where it, I mean, it borders so much on confidence that it is a tough thing to recognize because you can be extremely confident in something. I think when it starts to become arrogant is where you start to become dismissive of other people because you think that your answer is the right way, or, there's nothing else, and that is where confidence becomes dangerous because you can be confident and think that you have a great way, but not being open to suggestion or other ideas, I think, is kind of that shift into arrogance to where I'm right and everybody else is wrong.
So in balancing the arrogance and confidence, in that vein, something you said I want to kind of build upon is slow down, telling leaders, telling myself, like looking in the mirror and saying, slow down. If there is feedback coming or suggestions or what have you from your staff and you you think like been caught in this trap before too, is like I already know the end of this story. I already know what we're doing, and boom, we're plow on ahead, and then only to for it to crumble and fall and then be caught in a situation where I'm like, damn, I thought I knew it, right? And then turns out this person did know the answers. So something that I've learned is to really slow down and be data driven, be more data driven than emotionally driven. And for someone like me, that I mean, that you might as well ask me to hold back hold back a rushing river with a broom. Like that's tough, man. Not to lead with my emotion and just to back off and let the data speak for itself. And what I've been implementing over the past, I don't know, 5, 6 years since that really became a focus of mine in a career sense is uh Man, it's really tough to argue with facts, man. It's really tough to argue with objectivity in a situation when we are trying to find a solution.
So you're talking
Does that
about
make sense?
data where it is you, when you say factual, you mean data that you can show in terms of performance?
I was being more vague, but yeah, sure. I was being more vague, like in data I could show in terms of, hey, this has worked in the past and it'll work again because X, Y, Z, right? All these situations lined up. But in your case, that or what you had said was like performance based. Yeah, absolutely. Especially performance based. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong in this, but performance based discussions are pretty easy. Like,
I meant
especially,
more
yeah.
so when you're comparing yourself and your sense of worth and your value and you're talking
Mhm.
about how you fit and having those kind of measurables that you can show your worth, how do you measure the intangibles where you know they're important, like your ability to bond and build relationships and trust and everything that isn't necessarily measurable, but you know that there's value there because then you don't have data to lean on. You have your feelings on everything and the relationships that you've built that support
Mhm.
everything else. But I feel like there's a balance between, or not even a balance. It's kind of a two prong where you have your results and everything that you bring in terms of those measurable pieces, but then you have the intangibles that aren't necessarily measurable, but you know are just as, if not more, important and valuable than what you can show on paper.
So what you said something to me, and like I'm stuck on that little hourglass in Windows that keeps on going over, the little loading symbol, because I'm thinking, okay, so how do I want to answer this? Do I answer in a way that if I'm evaluating somebody's performance under me, or whether it's a self evaluation? And I think I've come to, I don't know, I'm just gonna say, it, and if it goes way off in right field, I apologize. Uh, in terms of building relationships and those intangibles that you spoke of, getting I interpreted it as getting people, again, rallying the troops, rallying the team to meet that common goal, right? um in that sort of charismatic effort, whether it's somebody that is answers to me in my department, or whether it's me, oh man, it's so easy to sort of manipulate situations to make yourself look better, right? And I've done this,
Mhm.
and I've seen it when other people do it. So I think, yeah, maybe that is a little more nuanced than just having data, right, to back up what your worth is. Because so many times, like if I've recruited for positions in the past where it was pretty competitive, and the folks there in the interviews were they really leaned on that, well, I got, the staff are all behind me because, this, that, and the other, and if you hire this other person, the staff's gonna, kick bricks, or, throw bricks through the window because they don't, no one likes them. But then you got to say, okay, why did you foster those relationships? Did you foster those relationships so whenever a position comes open, you can say, hey,
Mhm.
everyone loves me, right? Why do they love you? Are you giving them special treatment, right? All this stuff. And I'm sorry if I got lost in the weeds on this, but I think self-worth is something that goes beyond how much people really like you, because a real effective leader, and this is just Ernie 101 opinion, um, there's going, especially as far as how staff likes them. If everyone loves them, that's a problem. If everyone hates them, that's a problem. I think a good leader is going to have a mix of, hey, this person loves them, this group hates them. Oh, I hate to use the word hate, but I just did twice. You know what I mean? Like, and then I start to look at, okay, why are they loved?
Mhm.
What's the work ethic of the people that love him? What's the history behind that? And just looking introspectively, I've I've been able to see, like, yes, I am the people who are with me and love me and like me, they're here every day. Their attendance is stellar. They do a good job. They are accountable. They admit when they're wrong, right? They've shown opportunity to grow. The people that are polar opposite to that, I'm not gonna start naming a bunch of bad traits, but the people that are
Mhm.
polar opposite to that, they're the ones who tend not to like me individually as a person. So,
Guess
yeah,
I just
sorry,
wanna
I just kind of
well, no, no, you're good. I think I just wanna clarify what I meant with the intangibles wasn't necessarily a popularity thing where it's
uh,
like, "Oh, these people like me," because your example
gotcha.
seemed to shift a little more into an empty threat, like an entitlement, like, "Oh, well, these people are behind me, and if you don't give it to me, then we're gonna, get
Huh.
back out there and chant, 'Get out of here, Ernie.'" And, what I was talking about is more like looking at the impact that you can have on others without so when you're a manager and you're able to effectively get your team, that does directly translate to results. So you can say, "This is what my team is doing. This is the impact I'm having." When you're a leader within the team, you can sort of have those same results, but it's the impact that you have on others and the buy-in and the engagement and people, are there for you and your ability to build those relationships that you can view or hopefully, a manager sees that and the impact that you're having that isn't necessarily something that you can list on a piece of accomplishment or numbers to say, "Well, I had this direct impact." But you can just see the people that are effective at relationship building and getting the best out of others, not necessarily on a friend to friend type of thing, but the impact and potential that leaders have in influencing others and having like a positive impact.
No, no, okay, now I understand. I get what you're coming from. Um, question for you. Is there a certain way was there a metric that you have, and this is Ryan, that how you score your self-worth is how do you even come up with that? Because I think we've gotten this far in the conversation and maybe neglected to maybe give folks or a way to even gauge what their self-value is in the first place. Self-worth, sorry.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I constantly struggle with my self-worth and valuing because I've always given everything I have to everybody else and I hold that close to myself and I know that some people value it, some people don't, but I think your ability to put yourself out there for others is a driving force in effective leadership and your sense of self-worth. And I don't want to say like, "Oh, I'm the glue that holds this entire team together. They'd be lost without me." It's not that type of thing. It's more knowing that what I'm doing is positive for all of the people that I interact with, and I'm going out of my way to help them. And I know we mentioned it in an episode before where that has also gotten me into trouble at times where I'm giving too much of myself that I'm not taking care of myself. But I think the know your worth piece and what you were asking is knowing what you bring to the table in terms of what you can provide is extremely how do I want to say this? It's it can be really messy because you can get into a habit of apologize. Like for me, it's hard to speak confidently and put myself out there sometimes because I feel like I'm drawing the attention to myself, and I don't want the attention on myself. Like I don't need the spotlight. I try to be part of the team, be effective, and help drive things. Um, but it's also a matter of when you sit back and you look at the accomplishments you've had that you've written off or underplayed or downplayed for so long, that's like, well, I actually did do these things, I have done this is what I bring to the table. And you start to it's just easy to get lost and allow yourself to not just undervalue things that you've done, but it has an effect on your person as well, to where I think it starts to erode your confidence in other things, to where, you start to believe that this is who you are. You are this person that isn't living up to whatever expectations you have for yourself, regardless of what other people view you as. And when you finally step back and you look at, okay, I have done this, I have driven this, and you start to look at the change and effects that you've had, it helps in rebuilding your confidence to where you do truly know your worth. And it's like, okay, I can do this, I can do that, I can leave and go make an impact. Um, I think that's really the thing that helped me, was taking a step back and doing some self-reflection on, what do I really bring to the table? What have I accomplished in roles that I've had at companies that I've worked for, both in terms of metrics, but also the intangible piece. Like, what initiatives did I bring forward that, weren't considered before? Whether or not, you know, I mean, it could be something that would never came to fruition. It was just an
Right.
idea that started to gain momentum, even if it died out. It's still something that it's like, okay, well, I was a driving force in this thing. It didn't work out, but it still sparked this, great conversation and project. And I think when you start to look at your involvement of things, impact that you have, it builds the confidence in yourself that it can be replicated, and you continue to grow and develop. And it's something that you always need to be mindful of, is, I am important, I do bring things to the table. And staying away from the arrogance of, oh, these people would be lost without me. Like, I'm the what do they call it, the thought leader? Yeah.
For me, all I can do is share my bit of lived experience, and hopefully there's either you and listeners will uh be able to draw maybe some parallels there. For me, what drives my definition of self-worth is feedback, and I mean all feedback, and the way that it's received. You got to be aware of gross generalization in feedback. So the person who has has something to say about Ernie as a leader. Yes, that feels gross talking about myself in the third person. I'll say you. So the person who has something to say about Ryan as a leader says, well, he's always late. He's always grumpy. He always, right. That's just that gross generalization that
Hmm.
you gotta remember that. Let's to peel that back a little, and it works on the other side too. Like, Ryan's always smiling, Ryan is all right. So take peel that back and strip it down to the feedback itself. And yeah, maybe there are times that I come in with with a really bad case of resting bitch face, or I have a or I'm joking too much and fooling around too much in the office, and it's being received by third parties as, every time I come in here, Ernie's goofing around with the folks up in the front of the office, and that's why nothing gets done, and really taking it through that lens is like, in their reality, I can see why they think that, because, at this certain part of the day, I'm taking a small break and I'm doing my rounds, and my part of my rounds is walking around by, or management by walking around is, checking in with folks. And if there's nothing sort of mission critical at that point, then yeah, let's be a little social, let's joke around, let's have some, let's break up the data entry for this 2 or 3 minutes and tell you about taking pictures of space and how I set up all my equipment and it was just cloudy and I'm an idiot, and like, haha, yeah, right. So just then being sensitive to that and saying, like, you know what, maybe I should move that around. Like, that's a good piece of feedback. It's wrong because I'm not always joking around and always um laughing, where we do get stuff done here. But but going back to determining self-worth and using feedback as a real critical engine of that, in and understanding that it's coming from a place of, sometimes it is coming from way out in left field, like, whoa, you're just living in a different reality, buddy. And then sometimes it really is coming like, hey, that's valuable feedback. Like, I've been told that I'm effective in this area and it's working. I'm going to keep doing that. I've been told that this is a negative and I need to do something about that, whether it's whatever it is. Again, I'm getting lost in the detail, but again, knowing your value, knowing your worth. For me and for my money, it's always been about like feedback and the end user and the end result. Like, what is our finished product of whatever we're doing? If you're selling fries, how are those fries? Are they too salty? Are they
Mhm.
overcooked, undercooked? Right. For me, it's our service to our students and our staff. Like, what is that end result and what does that look like? That's going to determine my value as a leader, because obviously what I'm doing is trickling down and it's working. Right. Um, so I think for me, again, long way to answer a short question is feedback and knowing how to diagnose and absolve that feedback. Not absolve, excuse me, absorb.
Yeah. No, I just want to provide one kind of takeaway for everybody is that worth is earned through integrity and not permission. And you really teach people how to value you by how you show up and what you're willing to tolerate.
No, exactly, man. Like this is another sort of can get messy, right? But I've had situations where I've had interactions where I've said, you know what? Hey, I'm not going to stand for that. That's disrespect. That you're disrespecting this other person or you're disrespecting me, right? Like, no one here deserves that, especially least of all this person or myself, right? Like, standing up for yourself doesn't have to be controversial, right? It could be done in a very respectful manner to show everyone there that, hey, this is not acceptable, and I'm not okay with it, and this is what my expectation is. And I used a verbal confrontation. It could be something as simple as, hey, upper management or the corporate wants this, but I respectfully disagree, and we're not doing that, right? And I think that's a good way to establish self-worth as well.
Yeah, so just for listeners, we just kind of want to, know when the last time you sold yourself short was, or when you felt like you settled for less because you didn't want to make waves, or just any situation where you didn't appreciate your worth and what the result was for you and how you were able to move forward and changes that you made in your own life. So
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no,
Oh,
I was gonna wrap, but if you
so
have another
same here.
comment,
That's what we're
okay,
both rapping at the same time.
all
Let's do
right.
this, brother.
Well, so we'll close with leading ain't easy.
But you don't have to do it alone. God, I'm so good at that now. It's ridiculous how good I am at that.
Thanks for tuning in to Leading Ain't Easy. If something in today's episode resonated, please do us a favor and share it with someone else who leads or aspires to lead. Because honestly, none of us have this figured out, but we can all get better together. If you're a leader or professional feeling quietly stuck in your career, visit reframerise.com. It's a career and leadership coaching firm where I work with veterans and other high achievers to realign their work and lead with purpose. Again, that's reframerise.com. And if you're looking for leadership tools, training, or support for your transportation department, check out Bus Pro Network, where Erny helps school transportation leaders across California build safer, stronger teams. Please subscribe wherever you listen, leave a review, and let us know what topics you'd like us to tackle in the future. And remember, leading ain't easy, but you don't have to do it alone.